Okay, here we are recording now. So we're reading the story of Gaya. Lord Chaitanya has gone to Gaya because his father, Jagannath Mishra, had passed away, and he was still quite young. He was like a teenager. And so he's left for Gaya to perform the last rites for his father, and he's taken the ashes there. And he just performed the ceremony under the guidance of a priest. And at the same time, he's met his spiritual master there. So if you remember last week, we were discussing how it's the importance of the role of the spiritual master plays, in one's life. And in this past time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's become completely ecstatic upon reaching Gaya because he's met his spiritual master, he's given him Hare Krishna mantra, and he's like, he's actually crying with tears when he chants the holy names. So now we've read this interesting history of Gaya. So it's said that for any day that someone doesn't worship in this holy place, then this Gaya Sura, he'll resurrect. Yeah, and so you can imagine it's quite a busy temple. A lot of people are going there. Did you know there's two Gayas as well? Yeah, there's two Gayas in India. There's Vishnu Gaya, and there's I think it's called Buddha Gaya. Yeah, so the Buddha Gaya is the place where the Buddhists go actually, and Vishnu, this one's actually called Vishnu Gaya because it's the place where the Vaishnavas go. Yeah. So there's two places there, and this Vishnu Gaya has the lotus footprints of Vishnu.
Are they close to each other, probably?
I don't know the fact actually. I think that they're actually in the same place, but they're just like side by side. But the Buddhists go to one part of this town, and I'm not 100% sure on that one without checking.
Yeah.
But I've heard in classes from my spiritual master, he takes groups on the. He has this every year. He has a yatra or a safari, it's called in India. He takes a safari group of devotees to holy places. Where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done his pastimes outside of Navadvip, outside of Mayapur. So sometimes we'll go to Jagannath Puri, sometimes we'll go to South India, where Lord Chaitanya toured. Sometimes we'll go to Maharashtra or Vrindavan, or because Lord Chaitanya walked all over India. So there's a lot of holy places, and Bangladesh as well, that they go to visit. So Gaya is one of them. And so in one of the lectures, he was explaining that there's these two, there's Vishnu Gaya and Buddha Gaya. So that's a wonderful place to go. You can see the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. His footprints actually there, but you can see them and offer worship to them. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He went there on the time of his initiation and the time of offering his respects to his father passing away. Okay, so I'll read on unless anyone wants to comment or question. So Lord Chaitanya was offering all these things, Panchamrita, to the lotus feet of the Lord. And when he was performing this puja, he was crying. He was in so much ecstasy to worship the Lord. When we engage our senses in the Lord's service, this can awaken spiritual ecstasy, love for Krishna. That's what happened with Lord Chaitanya. It awakened his love. Offering services to the Lord, that kind of hands-on service, really awakens our love for the Lord. So this is, you can take this from a famous verse in the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami, and he quotes in the Padma Puran that Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tatparena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesa Shevanam Bhakti Ruchate. He gives a definition for what bhakti means. He gives a very precise definition. So if someone asks you what is bhakti, then you can give a very specific definition which comes from scriptures. And that definition is the same thing which is explained here in this second paragraph we read. It means when we engage our senses in the master of the senses, then without any other sense of identity apart from being the servant of the Lord, yeah, that is considered to be pure bhakti. Yeah. So when we say without any other identity, we shouldn't think that, you know, I'm like a human being trying to become spiritual, but we should think that I'm actually a spirit soul who's got this body, who's got this instrument or this vehicle, and I'm just using this vehicle, this instrument, to get back to Krishna, yeah, who's my master, who's my Lord. And that's actually pure devotional service. Even if we are not pure devotees, it's one thing to be a pure devotee, yeah, and it's another thing actually doing pure devotional service. So anyone can do pure devotional service, okay? Anyone who's engaging the senses in the service of Krishna for Krishna's pleasure, then that's pure devotional service, without trying to get something out of it for oneself, without trying to have some materially motivated desire. Then it's pure devotional service. And as much pure devotional service we do, then the purer we become. Then we become pure devotees. So the pure devotee is one who's performing pure devotional service without stop, without cessation. Yeah. So the pure devotee can do that 24 hours a day. That's pure devotee. But even if we're not pure devotees, even if we're not doing it 24 hours a day, what little service we can do, if we do it with that pure intention, that pure attitude to please Krishna, that's also pure devotional service. And when we accumulate that, we become pure devotee in due time. So any thoughts, any questions on this? Does it sound like something possible? Does it make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
So anyone can do pure devotional service. And when they just simply take that understanding that I'm a servant of Krishna and I'm going to serve Krishna with my senses. Yeah. So there it says here, then it says here, really awakens our love for the Lord. Yeah. Because already acting in that capacity, yeah, as a servant of Krishna. So I read on. Then Lord Chaitanya began to chant Hare Krishna, and he was jumping and chanting. Then he noticed that everybody was looking at him. So again he controlled himself. He went back and finished the puja for his father, offered the bhoga to the deity, then offered the prasada for the welfare of his father, so that his father would get Krishna prasadam. This is considered a good reason for grihasthas to have children. The son is called putra and the daughter is called putri, one who can deliver the parents from inauspiciousness. Yeah. So I think we discussed this a little bit last week, isn't it? About how the Pindadan is supposed to be done, right? Do you remember? Yeah. Week feels like a long time ago. I remembered like what I did this morning, a little bit of yesterday as well. 2, 3 days, 4 days back. Don't ask me difficult questions. Yeah, so when we perform these rites for the ancestors, we should actually be offering them prasadam. We should not be offering them unoffered food, which is not Krishna prasadam, because the intention is that they'll become purified by the offering that we make to them, isn't it? Wherever they may be, whichever place in the universe or in the spiritual world, wherever they may be, they can. This is a ceremony for which they can accept the offerings. But the best kind of offering to give to the ancestors is one which will uplift their consciousness. And so prasadam does that. It does that for us. It does that for them. Prasadam does that for anyone. Prasadam is Krishna's mercy. It can uplift anyone's consciousness. So it's important to note that when we are performing these kind of ceremonies, if we have to at some point in life, I say when we have to because it's, it happens in everybody's life at a point when our family members will move on from this world. Then this is the right way to do the ceremonies that we offer the ancestors prasadam. Yeah. And that's why the children are called putra or putri. Yeah. Has anyone heard this term before? Yeah. Sure, if anyone watches Hindi movies, they hear this all the time.
It's a Sanskrit word. It's I've heard it. Yes, of course. Yeah.
You've heard it, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a breakdown of the meaning of this word. It's quite significant. So the word has two parts, pu and tra, or pu and tri. Yeah. So pu means actually the hellish regions. Yeah. And tra means to deliver. So a son or daughter can deliver their ancestors from hellish places. So it's basically only if a son or daughter is actually doing that, then they get this title of putra or putri. Yeah. So the parents would take great care of their children because their children are going to be able to deliver them. They'll take great care of their children. Yeah. And name them, like call them with affection, putra, putri. Yeah. So with all their love, they're raising the children, and then the children in turn, out of love, will reciprocate with the parents by giving them benefit even after they pass away by offering this Shraddha ceremony. Just like this word tra, so it comes in even in the word mantra. What does the word mantra mean?
Deliver from the mind.
Huh?
Deliver from the mind.
To deliver the mind, yeah. Man is mind, and tra is to deliver. So same here, pu tra means to deliver one from hell. So you see the connection there, yeah. Okay, so I'll read on unless there's any questions or comments. Yeah. After performing this ceremony, the ceremony for his father, the Lord wanted to go to Vrindavan. He started shouting, "I'm going to Vrindavan! I'm going to Vrindavan!" He was running across to the river and running towards Vrindavan. Then a voice came from the sky. "Wait, you are not supposed to go to Vrindavan now. You must go back to Navadvip and start the Sankirtan movement. Then you will go to Vrindavan later." So then he went back to Navadvip, which is Gupta, hidden Vrindavan. Okay. So you can see that the transformation that happened in the life of Nimai Pandit at this stage. Yeah. So do you remember when we were reading in previous weeks what his behavior, his outlook was like, the way he was seen in Navadvip as a person? Yeah. What kind of person was he back before he got initiated? Before Nimai was initiated?
He was very.
Sorry. Panchali, carry on, please.
Yes.
Sorry, go. Matji, you carry on.
Go ahead, Panchali.
Yeah, go ahead, Panchali.
So he was learned. He was the pandit, but he would also tease people. So he would go. First of all, he would go against what is required to do in the scriptures, and then he would. I think he would make arguments, or he would establish or he would get into dialogues with the people performing them rituals. Or am I right? I mean, he would go into debates and he would still win.
Yeah.
So he would be a bit of a devil's advocate at times.
Mhm. That's right. So he was kind of seen as this kind of slightly arrogant, kind of really highly intelligent, like scholar in the town. Although he was very young, he was a very young boy, and he was so intelligent, you know. Yeah, and actually would play a lot of tricks as well. He was quite mischievous as well. Yeah. So then going from that into what do we see now in his behavior?
He's chanting the holy name in ecstasy.
Yeah, that sums it up. So he's chanting in ecstasy, isn't it? So he's had this huge transformation. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us through the pastime, right? What's he teaching us? What's the lesson in there for us?
When you accept a guru, you become serious in spiritual life, and you get a taste for devotional service.
Yeah. So he sincerely accepted a guru in this holy place, Gaya, and he took initiation from him, and he inquired from him how to practice spiritual life. So these are the first 3 steps of bhakti, as told by Rupa Goswami. There's 64 items of devotional service, you know, 64 things you can do to serve Krishna. Yeah. As Rupa Goswami tells us in his Nectar of Devotion book, which I refer to again. And therein he says the first 3 are to accept a spiritual master, inquire from him, and to take initiation. Yeah. So 3 things which are very important, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done, and he's immediately had this transformation. Yeah. So much so that he wants to run to Vrindavan. Yeah. So we may or may not have that exact same experience. Of course, his lila is amplified, isn't it, in bhakti? Yeah.
Sorry, what were the 3 steps?
Let me just take them from the Nectar of Devotion as they are.
Thanks.
So I just remember them, but I'd rather read the words that are used by Prabhupada. Bear with me, my internet's a bit slow. Nectar of Devotion. So in the Nectar of Devotion, where is it? There is a chapter called How to Discharge Devotional Service. That's chapter 6. So in this chapter 6, there are 64 items of devotional service. So I'll just read the first 3. It's considered that the first 10 are the most important. Yeah. Prabhupada says the first 10 are necessary for beginning the discharge of devotional service. Yeah. And if someone does these first 10, they will surely make good advancement. Surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says. So I could just go through the 10 if you like. I'll start with number 1. So accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. So the first thing is actually accepting that, you know, this person is a guru, he can actually guide me, or she, as the case may be. 2, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. Yeah. So the second one is initiation, once you accept the person. And number 3, obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. So, you know, it's one thing accepting the person is saintly. The second thing is having initiation from them. But then we also have to be able to follow the orders with faith and devotion. Yeah. So all 3 are the top items. I'll read the others. Would you like me to read the others? Just so you are aware of them. I
Yeah.
can stop there otherwise.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. I'll read the rest then. So number 4, following in the footsteps of the great acharyas under the directions of the spiritual master. 5, inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. 6, being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And in brackets, this means that when we are engaged in devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something that we may not like to give up, and also we have to accept something which we may not like to accept. Then number 7, residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwarka or Vrindavan. 8, accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. 9, observing the fasting days on Ekadashi, and 10, worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree. So these are the 10. Or in our case, we worship Tulsi, as I'm sure you know. So these were the 10. So how did we come onto this? I forgot. Oh yeah, so this is the instruction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving us, right? That the importance of taking initiation and following the spiritual master. So this is the end of this chapter now. Any thoughts or comments, reflections from this chapter? So the next chapter is called The Lord Returns to Navadvip. So I'll read some of this as well. The Lord returns to Navadvip. Many pastimes happened on the journey back to Navadvip. Now Lord Chaitanya was awakened. He received the darshan of Krishna in Kanai Natshala. He got complete spiritual upliftment. He started to manifest love for Godhead. He was always talking about Krishna. He was sometimes crying for Krishna and sometimes laughing in ecstasy. So this is one of the pastimes that have been taken from the journey back to Navadvip. Navadvip is like the city, and then Mayapur, which we often refer to, is like kind of a town or a section of Navadvip. Yeah. So he's returning from Gaya to Navadvip, and he stops in this place of Kanai Natshala. What happens there?
Gets
we just read.
darshan of Krishna.
Yeah,
Yes,
he actually sees Krishna like in a tree. He sees Krishna, I think from what I remember, he sees like Krishna standing by this tree. Then I think he also meets, what's the name of it? There's a devotee he meets there as well. What's his name now? But then that was one of the first devotees that saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this ecstasy. What's the name now? It was a brahmachari, and that brahmachari was already chanting all the time. So that brahmachari was like a pure devotee already. So it's interesting because as soon as Lord Chaitanya took up the practice of pure devotional service, then Krishna sent devotees to him like this. And he met this one devotee on the way back. What was his name? It wasn't Nrsinga Brahmachari, was it? No. Anyway, I've forgotten. Maybe I'll find the reference later on. Yeah. So let's continue reading. Then Lord Chaitanya started performing an abhishek to the lotus footprint of the Lord. Oops, sorry. Wrong place. Here we are. All the people knew Nimai Pandit as a very sober Pandit, a great scholar, the greatest master of Sanskrit in the city of Navadvip. So they were amazed at how much he had changed. Now he was crying, Krishna, 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 and he was laughing. Oh, Krishna, oh, Krishna. And he was falling on the ground, rolling around. Yeah. So when he returns, his ecstatic symptoms are like fully manifest, and like people are just able to witness this. No one had ever seen anything like this before. Yeah. So I can continue reading. Word got out amongst the devotees that something had happened to Nimai Pandit. Now he was chanting the name of Krishna in great love and ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya told Shuklamba Brahmachari, I will come to your house tomorrow morning and meet with the devotees. I want to tell them something. So the devotees assembled at the house of Shuklamba Brahmachari. Then Lord Chaitanya arrived. When he saw the tamal tree, the famous tree in the color of Krishna, he became very ecstatic and he hugged the tree. He started to cry, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. The devotees were amazed at such a transformation. So he's showing even more symptoms of his devotion now. And in the nectar of devotion, this is called Udipan. And Udipan is when you take an object to something devotional, or something you see which is mundane. It reminds you of something spiritual. So he saw this like dark colored tree, and he just remembered Krishna just from seeing this tamal tree. Yeah, tamal trees are quite famous in Vrindavan, in our Krishna Balaram temple. The courtyard. Does anyone know that story of that tamal tree? Well, the land that Prabhupada built the temple on, the ISKCON Vrindavan temple, the Krishna Balaram temple, is in a place called Ramanretti. Ramanretti is like in Vrindavan, Ramanretti is like the playground where the boys would, all the Gopas, they would go and play in the sand. It has very soft sands there. Even now, like if you go in the back of the courtyard kind of area, behind the temple grounds, there's still that kind of soft sand area there. So that place is called Ramanretti, that the reti or the sand which gives pleasure. So the boys used to wrestle and roll around and play games in that sand. So Prabhupada was very happy to receive that place to build his temple. And when the construction started, he particularly wanted this one tree, which is on that property, to remain intact. That was a tamal tree. And tamal trees, like today, they're quite rare now because, Vrindavan has been so developed. Everything's been knocked down. All the natural landscape has been knocked down. But this is one of the few tamal trees which are still remaining in Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada, with his great spiritual insight, kindly kept that tamal tree for us to be able to see, in Vrindavan. So, in the Vrindavan temple, if you've been, then it has like this, when you come in through the main, you go through the arches and you go through the gate entrance, and there's a courtyard. Is the first thing that you have when you come into the temple building itself. And then there's steps that go down into the courtyard, and then they go back up at the other end, and you go to the altars, 3 altars. But in that courtyard, there's still that tree right in the middle of the temple. More slightly to one side, but it's kind of there in the middle of the courtyard. So this is the tamal. So there's mention here of tamal tree again, because very black or dark colored wood tree. Wood of the tree is very dark, blackish color. So so this reminded Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Krishna, just seeing this form of this tree. The one in Vrindavan, from my memory, it's like a kind of small tree, So he became ecstatic on just seeing a tree. Even Prabhupada has a disciple, very famous disciple. Does anyone know who I'm referring to? Prabhupada's disciple named Tamal Krishna Goswami. Yeah, he looks like this Krishna looks like this tree, the color of this tree. So Prabhupada had his disciple's name, Tamal Krishna Goswami. And he was a very prominent disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. So would someone like to read next? See number 1. I don't have a number 2 on the list. Smita, do you want to read next? Smita Mataji?
Okay, yeah, I'll read next then.
Thank you.
Before he would be very scholarly and academic in his dealings, but now he was just completely in love with Krishna. The devotees couldn't understand why this change had happened.
Okay, continue.
Then Lord Chaitanya called the devotees and said, "Listen, I have something to tell you. I took initiation in Gaya and it changed my heart. When I was coming back from Gaya, I went to the holy place of Krishna called Kanai Natshala. In Kanai Natshala, I was sitting and chanting my Hare Krishna mantra, and in the distance I saw some village boy, some cowherd boy, playing on a flute. My mind was attracted, my heart was attracted. Who is this boy?"
Okay, you carry on.
He started dancing closer and closer in a yellow dhoti, and he was wearing a turban on his head with a peacock feather in it. I was so amazed. Who could this be? He got closer and I saw that he was playing on the flute. Surely it is Krishna. But how is Krishna here in Kanai Natshala? Krishna got closer and he was smiling at me and he played on his flute. I could see the Gauranga jewel around his neck. I could see the Srivatsa mark on his chest. It was surely Krishna, the original Vishnu, and he was coming closer and closer to me. My hairs were standing on end. My eyes were filled with tears of love.
Okay. So he's now revealing his heart, isn't it? Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu is now revealing his heart to this small group of devotees here in Navadvip. Yeah. So previously we discussed the 6 loving exchanges, isn't it? In previous meetings. So does anyone remember what those 6 were? So 2 of them are kind of prominent here. Yeah.
Offering prasad and accepting prasad.
Yeah, that's 2 of the loving exchanges. Yeah. Any more? So 2 is offering prasadam and accepting prasadam. So if someone cooks prasadam for you, that's actually considered a loving exchange, isn't it? An act of love to give someone prasadam. Yeah. So that fits well with what we were just discussing, that he had gone to Gaya and he'd offered prasadam to his father, right? His deceased father. And accepting that prasadam is also an offering of love. If someone offers you prasadam, you shouldn't refuse it, really. Sometimes even in the Hindu community, you see when they come to our temple, if someone gives prasadam, they take it. It's like, they're very reverentially, taking the prasadam. Don't waste any, they tell the children, don't even waste one drop, one crumb, one grain. So this is, actually, it can be done in a very ritualistic way sometimes, but actually it's love, that they're accepting someone's, giving them prasadam from Krishna. So yeah, these 2 there. And then there is also giving gifts and receiving gifts. Yeah, giving and receiving gifts are 2 more principles, right? We will love to give gifts, receive gifts, right? We will love to receive gifts, but we also love to give gifts too. So these are 2 more loving exchanges. And then the 2 that are prominent here is that the revealing of one's mind. and hearing the mind of another person, it can only be done when there's that much love, between the people, the two people, or the group of people. You don't go here, there, and everywhere and tell people what's in your mind, what's in your heart. I mean, you can go around giving gifts to everyone, you can go around giving prasadam to everyone, but it's actually an act of love. It's meant to be done confidentially, revealing the mind confidentially, and hearing in confidence someone's mind, because it's their heart, it's their thoughts, it's their desires, or even their challenges and troubles. So these are acts of loving exchange, that someone's actually willing to open their heart to you is a loving exchange, isn't it? Yeah. So Rupa Goswami, again, he delineates these 6 principles of love. So we can measure our relationships that we have by these 6 wonderful principles. Whether it's with our spouse, or with our friends, or with our other peers or juniors or seniors, others around us in our community or society in general, in our workplace or whatever. We can develop nice relations with others by using these 6 principles. When we say principles of loving exchange, it doesn't mean this only romantically. It can mean, actually genuinely, like through friendship and so on as well. So if we want to have a pleasant exchange with others, these are really nice principles. So how has Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited? How has he exhibited that here? What do you think?
He's revealing his mind.
Right. Okay. And what has he revealed? Yeah. What specifically has he told the audience, devotees?
He's relating how he got the darshan of Krishna.
Yeah. So that's something actually quite confidential, isn't it? Yeah. You'd want to tell that if you're so fortunate to have seen Krishna, you'd want to tell that only to a group of confident people that you confide in, right? I was thinking about that, because why, if you were to go around telling everyone, I've seen Krishna, I've seen God, how do you think people would react? This guy's a nutter, Yeah. So yeah, so it has to be done in a group of confidants, in a group of people that can relate to you, can understand you, who can keep your secret. Sometimes Prabhupada was asked, have you seen God? Sometimes people would ask, and Prabhupada on one occasion he responded, what does it matter, like if I've seen God and I say yes, will you believe me? Like if I said yes, then you're not going to believe me anyway, right? So why should I tell you I've seen God or not? Yeah. And if I say no, then you'll take me as being a cheap devotee. Then he hasn't seen God, so why should I follow him? So no matter what answer I give, it doesn't it doesn't have any bearing on you, because you don't confidentially have that relationship with him. So I just realized my camera wasn't working. So yeah, so you can see, like, it's and there are devotees in our movement, believe it or not, that have seen Krishna face to face, even in our community here in the UK. But it's a confidential thing. They don't reveal. They don't want to reveal that, because they can be mocked, or they can be put on a very high platform. If Krishna gives them mercy, Krishna gives his mercy to them, so they don't like to reveal that. So it's definitely possible that Krishna could give his mercy and give his darshan to any one of us. It's not me, by the way. There are devotees in our community I've seen Krishna face to face. It's so extraordinary, isn't it? So he's giving certain descriptions here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's saying that there's a Kastuba jewel around the neck of Krishna. So this is a common in descriptions in the Bhagavatam as well. This correlates with the Bhagavatam. So Lord Chaitanya, he was actually able to describe exactly according to the Bhagavatam how Krishna looked. And he has this. So this is a specific jewel which Vishnu wears on his chest, on his like on a pendant or a necklace. And he also has. It's very interesting because he has this Srivatsa mark on his chest. Does anyone know what that is? Srivatsa mark? No. Srivatsa is so he has a silver hair, a single like shining silver hair on his chest. He hasn't got a hairy chest, but he's just got this one silver hair on his chest. Right, it's quite unique. So this is like one of the markings of Vishnu, and that's why. And he has another name, Srinivas, that the Lakshmi resides on his chest. Yeah. So he resides where that silver hair is. Yeah. And there's other descriptions and details given in the scriptures as well. So he saw all these different things and he was relating, because these devotees, they were confidential, they could understand, they could appreciate that actually he's seen Krishna, because he's giving all these beautiful descriptions, and they themselves were like amazed. Okay, so Smita Mataji, if you want to continue reading.
Okay. All of a sudden, Krishna came and put his arms around me and hugged me. I was feeling so much love, I could not express it. Then Krishna moved away, smiling at me. I ran after him, but he ran away and disappeared. I was rolling on the ground. I had Krishna, and I had lost him. And I lost him. Shall I
Yes, so
carry?
if you want to read the last paragraph of this chapter.
My dear devotees, do you know what it is like to have Krishna in your hands and lose him? Oh, it is horrible. I miss Krishna so much. Now I can only think of Krishna.
So you can see he's really pouring out his heart here, isn't it? And we've read many stories like this, isn't it, now? Where Krishna reveals himself to the devotee and then he disappears. Why does Krishna do this?
He initially gives special mercy if somebody's eager to see, but then he's fair to all the devotees. So to see him again, then you need to follow all the practices properly.
You have the right standard, that's right. So out of mercy, Krishna gives. So even if someone's not qualified already, and we can all experience it, we all must have experienced it at some point in time, that we had a like initial spark, an initial taste of Krishna consciousness, right? An initial glimpse of like, that spiritual ecstasy, even for a moment, even a tremor, even a tear, even, just, relief, just the freedom and feeling of, bliss, even if it's for a moment, even if it's for a few moments. It keeps us going, isn't it? In spiritual life, Krishna gives us these drops of mercy, which we're always begging for. We should always be begging for Krishna's mercy, yeah, to reveal himself to us, yeah. So Krishna does this, and we can see even in our own life, we can appreciate that, I think, isn't it? That's what will help us. That will help us to keep going. So if you have any thoughts or like to share, we've just come to the end of this chapter now. Anything which stuck out for you in this chapter we've read now?
When you were talking about There's another pastime where somebody challenged Prabhupada, asking him whether he's seen Krishna, and he pointed to the deities and said, "Yeah, here he is. Can't you see him?" And some Prabhupada disciples were relating this memory, and they said, at that moment when we looked at the deity, we could see, yeah, they are really Krishna. Like, for some reason, it's like he revealed something when he showed the deities that at that particular time, because when they saw, it wasn't just they just could perceive that this is actually Radha Krishna at that moment, due to Prabhupada's mercy at that point.
Wow, that's really amazing. Panchali's just joined us. You just missed the most amazing story, Panchali.
Oh, have I?
So let's move on to the next. I'm joking.
Oh, well, I'll probably, I haven't.
Smita Mataji will tell us now. That was. Is that okay?
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
laughing. Sorry, what did you say?
Would you like to relate that story for Panchali's benefit? You tell that one.
But
Sorry, can I have the page number, please, Ravi?
Yeah, we're on page 81.
Thank you. Just on that, your question about reflection on this chapter, I was just thinking it's in the same way, isn't it? I mean, even Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, he reveals his himself to his devotees quite a few times, just like that, doesn't he? Like the person who sold bananas. Or there was a businessman. I can't remember the names, but there was a businessman, and then so there are quite a few times that he actually revealed himself, just like Krishna revealed himself. So he does that as Krishna, as Vishnu, and to one devotee, I can't remember, he showed his 6 hands.
Yes.
Again,
There's
I
a
can't
few,
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, he showed his 6-arm form. That's called Sadbhuj, the Sadbhuj Gauranga. He showed that form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who's one of the prominent devotees. He showed that form too. My wife told me the other day that in another pastime, Lord Chaitanya had this 6-arm form, 2 arms of Krishna, 2 arms of Gauranga, and 2 arms of Narasimhadev, which he also revealed to another devotee. So that happens as well. So yeah, many times that, but it was always done in a confidential way, you know, except for this one time, which was the Mahaprakash Leela, and that's why the name is Mahaprakash, because he showed that form to many devotees at once. But they're all confidential devotees, all in one place at Srivas Thakur's house. So yeah, it's nice to correlate that as well. Yeah, so just the way that Krishna reveals himself, Gauranga can also reveal himself. If we chant Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. Yeah. My Guru Maharaj, he's quite famous, Jayapataka Maharaj is quite famous for getting everyone going. You know, he'll go anywhere around the world, and he just, in the middle of his class, he'll just start shouting, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. Everybody chants together, Gauranga, Gauranga. And you can really feel the atmosphere just changes. Yeah, even when he used to do kirtan, he would play with these giant wampas. Like they're literally like this big, you know, huge ones, super heavy, and he'd be bashing them in. And you could actually feel like the waves of ecstasy just coming out, these wampas hitting you. So yeah, you can feel that transformation. But there's one thing, you know, reading and understanding, that's like an intellectual understanding, isn't it? Like, yeah, it makes sense, it must be true, but it's actually experience which changes us, isn't it? Spiritual experiences are what change us, you know. So Jiva Goswami says there's 10 types of evidence that in any form of life, 10 ways that we accept knowledge. And he says that experience is the chief of them all. Yeah. Because you can use mental reasoning to try and intellectualize, or you can, study. So you can do all these things, you can follow the scriptures, but unless you actually have experiences, realizations, and they're backed up and they're confirmed by devotees, then that's actually what causes the change of heart. So thanks, Nimesh, for sharing that story.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, Prabhuji, if you really go deep, very deep into thinking, Srila Prabhupada's mercy is so amplified, because even if you just, now he's not here physically, but if you listen to his voice, like chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, or his lectures, or one can have this spark ignite again from one's self. Should it be desired,
Yeah, it reminds me of a statement from Bhaktivedanta Thakur, where he says that those who reason ill, how does that quote go? They reason ill who say that Vaishnavas die when the Vaishnavas are living in sound. I can't remember the exact quote. I don't know if maybe Nimesh, do you remember that? There's a quote like that. Have you heard it? He who reasons ill.
Something like that,
Yeah. So he writes in this poetic language. I can't remember the exact quotation. He's writing actually about Haridas Thakur. He's got a poem, but the purport of it is that he's saying that the pure devotees, they never actually leave us, even though physically they may leave us. We may not see them physically in this world. They can always be with us in there through their instructions, the Vani. Even if their Vapu, their physical form isn't there, the Vani is always there. We can always be with them through that instruction. So yeah, definitely, we can all have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada, with any of Srila Prabhupada's disciples who have departed. What to speak of any of the acharyas, any of the previous Vaishnavas, all the way back up to Lord Brahma. If we have that Vani and we actually respect and cherish it, then we can be there. So the Bhagavatam is like that. It's like a living book. When we read these pastimes and honor these people in the Bhagavatam, they're actually alive. They're actually there with us. We can be there with, like, King Parikshit. We could be there with Shukadev Swami. We can be there with Lord Shiva, with Prithu Maharaj, with anyone in the Bhagavatam, King Nimi, anybody, any personality. They're all eternal. They're living in the pastimes. So not only the Lord, but it applies to all the devotees. So that's amazing, huh? So shall we move on to the next section now? The next paragraph, the next story, pastime. If we could have Nimesh, would you like to read the next one?
Yeah, sure. Srivas Thakur diagnoses the Lord's disease. After the Lord returned from Gaya, some of his neighbors started commenting to Shachimata, "You should do something about your son. He has disturbed airs in his body. Maybe he is haunted by a ghost. I think he needs to be given coconut water to cool him down." Then another neighbor said, "No, this is not strong enough. You should give him some Vishnu oil to rub on his head to cool down his brain." And the other said, "That is not strong enough. You should tie him up with ropes. You can never predict what he is going to do in his ecstasy." Mother Shachi said, "Don't bother me. There's nothing wrong with my son."
So this is, I think, why our acharyas, they stress on on this confidentiality, expressing devotion in confidentiality. Because you can see how people get the wrong idea, isn't it? They can't just go to your work colleague, I was chanting Hare Krishna the other day, and like there were just tears coming from my eyes when I saw the deities. They just won't understand, So this is a nice part of an interesting part of the pastime, the nosy neighbors in this particular section, and how they respond. Neighbors like they peer over the fence and what's going on there? He's rolling on the ground.
Yeah.
He's rolling on the ground. He's crying. So they're thinking that he's haunted by a ghost, and they're giving all these like remedies. It's kind of funny reading this, because they remember what he was like just not long before. So for them, it's quite a transformation to go from this cool-headed scholar to erratic kind of transcendental bhakta. Yeah. Okay, we can read on.
Yep. One day, Lord Chaitanya saw Srivas Thakur coming, and his ecstasy of devotion increased so much. The hairs on his head stood on end. Tears were pouring from his eyes. He was shaking, and he was crying in extreme ecstasy. When the Lord saw the devotees, he fell unconscious on the ground. He was in such ecstasy. When he came back to consciousness, he was crying and shaking. No one was able to cause the Lord to become peaceful. He was in intense Krishna prema, love for Krishna. Seeing this extreme manifestation, Srivas began to think that this was Maha Bhakti Yoga, the greatest form of pure Krishna prema.
Okay, do you want to read the next one as well? Or unless anyone has any, if anyone has any thoughts or reflections on this.
After this, Lord Chaitanya went to see Srivas Thakur and said, "Can I ask you something? Can I get some guidance from you?" Srivas said, "Why not? What do you want?" The Lord said, "You see, I am facing this difficulty. Some people say I have a disease. I want to know from you. You are a very experienced Vaishnava. Please tell me, am I diseased or not?" "All right, so tell me, what are your symptoms?" "You see, whenever I chant Hare Krishna, my hairs stand on end. Sometimes my voice chokes up and tears come from my eyes. Sometimes I faint. People are saying that I have got some disease." Srivas said, "Yes, you have a disease, and I want that disease also."
So he gives a very funny kind of response. So you can see how these pastimes are all full of they're all full of like this kind of humor, this kind of sweetness, isn't it? Yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he experiences Madhurya Bhav. Yeah, he experiences such sweetness with his devotees, and not only that, he's actually giving this sweetness to everyone. This is his entire purpose of coming to this world, is to give this sweet bhakti ras to everyone.
In one of the classes, Prabhu, so they were teaching about the 3 stages of spiritual life, the sadhana bhakti, the bhava bhakti, and the prema bhakti.
Yeah.
So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing, that's the purest form, isn't it? That's prema bhakti, the highest form. But it's also bhava bhakti, isn't it? Because he's crying and he's showing his emotions. It's all 3 combined together, isn't it?
Yeah, so here he's actually experiencing prem bhakti. Not only that, but he's actually experiencing the highest level of prem bhakti. because praying, even within praying bhakti, there's many stages. Yeah. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says that you can start experiencing prema bhakti even from shanta ras. Even someone who's what the word of shanta ras means, someone who's like in a neutral love of God.
Yeah.
Even they can experience prema bhakti. So even the residents of Vaikuntha, the devotees of Vishnu, they can experience prema bhakti. But the kind of prema bhakti that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing is much, much, much higher than that. Yeah. He's experiencing what's called Ashta Sattvika Bhava, which is what Radharani experiences. So he's giving all these different symptoms, huh? So he's saying that his hair stand on end, his voice chokes up, tears come from his eyes, sometimes he faints, yeah, and he's shaking, yeah. So he's experiencing so many things at once. All these symptoms are just coming at once, yeah. So this is only what Radharani can do. She can only have all these symptoms at once because such extreme separation from Krishna. And this is why nobody could understand it, actually, because he looked like he was ill. He looked like he was just, otherworldly to them. From a mundane vision, it looks like that. Yeah. So yeah, Srivas Thakur, in his divine wisdom, he's like, I want that kind of disease too. He's like, if you've got it, give some to me. Right? So it's funny. So we all want that, right? We all want that kind of love for Krishna. Okay, if you want to continue, please.
Nobody wants to be diseased. So Lord Chaitanya knew that Srivas was joking with him. Srivas Thakur explained, you have love of Godhead, love of Krishna, Krishna Prem. Even Brahma and Shiva want to get Krishna Prem, but ordinary people won't understand. You can chant here in my garden. I have a nice garden with a closed wall. You can chant here, and I'll invite certain confidential devotees. They can understand. They'll appreciate. Like that, the first kirtan was started in Srivas Angan, the house of Srivas Thakur.
Wow, Hari Bol.
Jai.
Amazing end.
Okay, yeah.
Wow, I love this story. Did you like reading that too?
Amazing.
Yeah. So he just like returns from Gaya with all these amazing spiritual symptoms. He's got so much mercy from his guru. He sees Krishna on the way. Then he gets home and like everyone thinks he's crazy, but then he tells the devotees that actually saw Krishna, and the neighbors think that he's ill and diseased. And then he again reveals to Srivas Thakur in confidence, am I really crazy? Am I really ill? And then Srivas says, yeah, you are, and I want that illness too. I want that disease too. Yeah. So beautiful pastime. Lord Chaitanya has coronavirus, not coronavirus. He's got the mercy of Krishna, and he's giving that to everyone. It's coronavirus.
Did you think of that, Prabhu?
Yeah, I just thought of it on the spot.
Brilliant.
It's an amazing pastime, huh? And so then it's like that, right? So Shiva says, don't worry, I'll put you in the hospital. You can stay in my garden and chant until we all feel ill. Until we all get coronavirus. Okay, sorry, I'm just going off on one a bit. So this is actually
quarantining.
Huh? They're in quarantine.
Quarantining Lord Chaitanya and the devotees.
Yeah. They're all in Srivas Angan and they're just locked down in there, right? Not going anywhere. So that's the fact. That's actually what happened, isn't it? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got this mercy from his spiritual master, and he relished it with his intimate associates. Yeah. So sometimes Srivas Angan, the house of Srivas, is considered the birthplace of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra Kirtan. Jai. Yeah. So it was where the Sankirtan movement actually started. The home of the Sankirtan movement was in Srivas Angan. You can still see that place, that garden, which is walled, that property where they had Kirtan by the Tulsi plant. And there's so many stories. We'll read some of them in the next chapters. We're coming up to closing. So I think this next pastime is a little bit long. So maybe we won't get into the next one. But yeah, I just had some reflections. Like, this place is really amazing. It said how it was really important that they all did Kirtan together, you know. They had that, they already were devotees in Navadvip at the time, even though there was many other types of scholars and tantrics and other types of people, you know, ritualistic brahmanas, or what they call smarta brahmanas. So there were these other different groups or different sects of Vaishnavas, yeah, Shaktas and so on. And there was this group of devotees as well, but they weren't really united at this stage, you know. Everyone was, you know, devotees would appreciate each other and they'd be practicing and so on. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually started the Sankirtan movement. San means, has two meanings. It means perfect is one meaning, yeah, like the word Sanskrit, you know, perfect language. Sanskrit means the perfect language. And it also means, Sankirtan also means together, like Sangha, like confluence, like union. It also means coming together. So Sankirtan, it means that the perfect glorification of Krishna, and it also means the united, you know, glorification. Congregational chant, Prabhupada would translate as, yeah. So this is where I actually started. They all got together. The Vaishnavas were actually able to get together in the house of Srivas Thakur. And they would develop that loving relationship with each other and with Krishna at the same time. So it's really important to learn this because because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is to spread the holy names to everyone. But unless we're actually relishing it and tasting it for ourselves, unless we're actually, you know, deeply appreciating the holy names for ourselves, unless we're able to get together and chant and, you know, develop loving friendships amongst each other, then, you know, what do we have to give? You know, so I've been thinking how this coronavirus time has been nice in some ways, because we as devotees have become closer as a community, you know. Because my experience, at least, was, you know, going to the temple, rushing in, doing a service, rushing out, you know, and you're not really kind of interacting or kind of sharing, you know, having so much of these loving exchanges with devotees as much, because we're busy with our lives. We're just trying to, you know, fit it all in, shoehorn as much as you can in the day, right? But this time is kind of taught, at least it's taught me one thing, that you know, we can take a step back and actually develop our relationships with devotees more, you know, during this lockdown, and we can become strong. We can build strong bonds amongst ourselves, so that when the time is right, and, you know, the time will come when everything's back and open again, we have something valuable which we can share. We have, you know, a deep connection with one another and with Krishna which we can share, which we can invite people into. So that's probably my little reflection from this reading. I really like this chapter in particular. So yeah, don't know if anyone else, it'd be nice to hear your reflections. We've still got some time. Someone would like to share.
For me, it was really nice knowing the two meanings of Sankirtan. So I knew it was together, but I didn't know that it also meant perfect, and it perfectly makes sense that there are these two meanings to the word Sankirtan. So yeah, and also, you know, the fact that, Lord Chaitanya, through himself, being a devotee, actually expresses expresses as to what a real or a true devotee should be, the signs and the symptoms of a true devotee. So that was very, and that was a really nice thing to read.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because there were people who were devotees, or devotees of sorts, but no one had ever seen anything like this before, ever in Navadvip, until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed this, and still they misunderstood, So yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the first one who's actually revealed this kind of Mahabhav. Yeah. Anyone else? It'd be nice to hear your reflections. Can be from this chapter or the previous ones we read, or in general.
Yeah, I remember talking to one of the devotees who I take a lot of guidance from, and they were saying, you mentioned how out of humility devotees don't speak about these things.
Yeah.
He mentioned two other reasons also. One is that it will become cheap, so devotees or people who are not on that level will start imitating it.
Mm.
And the other reason he gave was it's when Krishna reveals himself to a devotee, it's their personal exchange. And he gave the analogy, just like a husband, a wife wouldn't like it if a husband was to speak about their exchange to people outside of their relationship.
Yeah.
So he said, similarly, a devotee, it's kind of like betraying that confidentiality with Krishna to reveal it to others, to the public.
Yeah. Some really nice points. Yeah, so that's I think that relates nicely with what we discussed about Srila Prabhupada. So he said, what difference does it make if I've seen Krishna or not, if I tell you, if I don't tell you? Because he didn't want it to be taken cheaply. So Prabhupada also didn't tell people openly that I've seen Krishna. Prabhupada did see Krishna. He writes it in his diaries when he was on the boat on the Jaladuta going to America. He personally saw Krishna. But that was a very confidential thing. It wasn't revealed till so much time afterwards, isn't it? No one ever read those Jaladuta diaries. Prabhupada's personal ecstasies that he kept. But it was revealed in there.
So Prabhuji, all the spiritual masters, they are chosen people by Krishna, aren't they? They are Krishna's representatives. So can we just confidently say that they've all actually seen Krishna? They have, haven't they? Because they all belong to the spiritual world.
Yeah, that's right. So in the Guru Vastakam, which we sing, it said that all of the spiritual masters are Krishna's confidential devotees. Nikunjayuna Rati Kali Siddhya Yayalibi Tirapakshaniya Tatrati Daksha Rati Balavasya Vande Guru Shri Charnaravinda. So in this 6th verse, let's mention that. They're all confidential devotees of the gopis. Let's mention in that way. Yeah. On the other point, Nimesh, so it's true that that point you made about the husband and the wife, and they didn't reveal their personal dealings. But then one might ask, then why do we go on Harinam Sankirtan if we've got this personal relationship with Krishna which we don't want to share? So that question was also, that point was also brought to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Vallabhacharya. Yeah, Vallabhacharya said we shouldn't chant, and he was also a Vaishnava devotee. He was also a pure devotee of Krishna, Vallabhacharya. Yeah, but he brought this point to Krishna, saying that to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that Krishna, if he's like a husband, then the wife doesn't want to go and tell her dealings with him. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he answered in a different way. He said that, but if the husband wants everybody to know about him, because Krishna is the husband of everyone, then we shouldn't hide it. So we can think that, this relationship with Krishna is just for me. also we can get into that thinking that, I'm so special, Krishna's given me a relationship with him. But Krishna doesn't want us to think in that way alone. He wants us to give that relationship to everyone. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being Krishna, he wants us to give that relationship. He wants to be the husband of everyone, or he wants to be the lover of everyone, let's say. He wants to be, he's everyone's Lord. So he wants us to give that relationship to everybody as well. But of course, it has to be done appropriately, not that, we can do it in an inexperienced way. Smita Mataji, do you have any thoughts or anything to add, any reflections?
I just was going to say that I really liked what Nimesh Prabhu said about Srila Prabhupada, because I think I personally, when I heard that, believe that it was Srila Prabhupada's mercy that they could see, the other devotees could see Radha in Krishna. Yeah, obviously it's also Krishna's mercy, but without your guru's mercy, you can't step a foot near Krishna.
Yeah. It reminds me, I was in a kirtan once, a kirtan event in Radha Desh Mellows, and maybe like 10 years ago or something, I can't remember. But they were giving like a reflections thing at the end of, like, everyone was just sharing their reflections after the whole kirtan mela was over. And one devotee said something that's kind of stuck in my mind all this time. And he was saying, like, never really had a taste for chanting. He was playing mridanga. He was a mridanga player, quite a well-known one. And he was giving this really nice reflection. He was saying, because I was sitting next to you, he was saying to the singer, he was glorifying the kirtan leader, and he was actually sitting next to Madhava Prabhu, and he was glorifying him, and he was saying that, because I've been sitting next to you and doing kirtan, it feels like the door of the spiritual world is really open, like the holy name is really entered into the room. The pure holy name is entered into the room because I was sitting next to you, and it was coming to you. It was reflecting a little bit on me too. And it was kind of just giving this wonderful way of explaining it. I'm not doing any justice, but it's just such an amazing reflection, because he was just sitting next to him playing the mridanga. He still felt like such a great mercy coming to him. So yeah, through kirtan, through darshan of the deities, I've also experienced, actually, like once I was behind Radhanath Swami at Soho Street, and he was paying obeisances to the deities, and you could just really feel the deities were so present. It's just extraordinary. The whole room, it was like you could feel the whole room was like trembling. It was just amazing atmosphere. It was like dead silence. I don't know if you've ever been in the room when Radhanath Swami comes in. It's like pin drop silence, isn't it? Nobody wants to move or say anything. And everything's just like, it's like time stops. So it's really like that. And I've experienced that with different devotees, with my spiritual master also. And it's just really amazing to be with, like, it's the benefit of being with pure devotees, isn't it? Yeah. So why they say that Vani is more important, the instructions of the Guru are more important than the presence, we should definitely not neglect the presence of the pure devotees. We should take full advantage of that too, as much as possible, as often as possible. Yeah. Sorry, I do end up speaking quite a lot in between everyone. That's okay. Yeah, so I don't really have any announcements, I guess, for ending this evening, but hopefully we can continue next week. I noticed there's not so many on the call this evening, so we're being encouraging if anyone else would like to join, if you'd like to invite anyone along, and we can have this reading with more devotees. I think I sent out I ordered like 20 I ordered 20 Gauranga books for us in the UK. Still, there's only a few of us, a handful of us here, so it'd be nice to try and get more devotees on board if we can. And of course, Nimesh has got you've got like a digital book we can all read from, isn't it? So if you think anyone is interested, then they can come along and hear Gauranga with us. That'd be nice. Yeah. Okay. Jai Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the lovely class, Rabbi. Very well, everyone. Thank you.
My stress is not a class, it's a discussion. We should all
It's a discussion, yeah.
talking
Yeah,
together.
sorry. Yeah, I'm just being a teacher, sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that. I hate being in that mood of being, trying to be the leader or the teacher, but I want it to be a discussion. Everyone's open to speak and comment, so don't feel shy
You are a Shiksha Guru, aren't you, Prabhu?
Well, I'm learning so much from you all as well.
Mhm.
You're sharing wonderful things, which I learn, which keeps me going.
Prabhu, thank you so much, especially
Thank you,
that
Prabhu.
last message you said about how coronavirus has brought devotees together. That was such a nice positive message. So thanks, Prabhu.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
I could have done
Okay, Haribol, Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.